Okay, great. So yesterday we discussed about a TCP header, right? Today we're going to discuss about the IP header, then a little bit about Ethernet header. Okay. Then we're going to start our first session with one Alto. So if you remember, we discussed yesterday what like. Let me open that notepad. Yesterday we discussed whenever your machine or any device exiting the packet, they encapsulate the data. How? First, whatever you initiating, let's suppose it's a layer 7 protocol. Layer 7 protocol initiate the traffic. Then layer 7 at layer 4 going to hit two protocols, going to pack into two protocols. Either it's a TCP or UDP, right? So in TCP, we observed mostly three-way handshake. What data they contain? What is the meaning of those flags? And let's now discuss. See, for the UDP, we know that it's a connectionless protocol, right? Why? It's a connectionless protocol, right? Because UDP do not perform what? Three-way handshake. Okay. So if you check the UDP header, actually, it's about only few function like source port, destination port. Because see, TCP is reliable because when last yesterday class we seen whatever data you're sending, we always acknowledging the data using the sequence number. So TCP makes sure that okay, I received the data, whatever you sent me, and I'm acknowledging you. And how you gonna acknowledge? You're gonna decide that part. Every packet you cannot acknowledge, right? So you will decide like after a few minutes, like a 3 packets, 10 packets, whatever your window size, accordingly you're gonna decide okay, I'm gonna acknowledge on 10th packet or 5th packet that I'm going to receive first 3 packet or 4th packet. But UDP do not have any kind of such things. UDP directly going to be send the data. That means UDP protocols or header do not contain any acknowledgement part, okay, or is any kind of three-way handshake. So that means, what do you mean by that? Immediately whenever you send the data from the layer 7, earlier what we seeing actually, your layer 7 your TCP packet hold the data until unless they do not perform the three-way handshake, right? Do you remember that part? Once they finish the three-way handshake, then in the fourth packet they are sending the application data. But UDP, there is no such kind of mechanism like three-way handshake. That means UDP always send contain the what? Application data from the beginning first packet. So I'll show you that part. So let me show you some mm, let's open the Wireshark. Um, so let's open any UDP packet. So this is the one packet that's sending app data. So if you check here specifically, the UDP protocol is containing what? Source port and destination port and the timestamp. That's it. So that means it is saying I am not reliable. I am not making sure that the other side will receive the data or not. I only take care I can carry the data. That's it. Whether it's going to be received or the destination or not, it's your choice. So it's a direct channel actually. And see, if you check the first packet directly, it containing some data, any app data, whichever is containing. Okay. Same way, if you check some DNS data also, DNS work in the UDP, right? So if you check, this is the DNS query actually. So also if you check the UDP header, UDP saying source is my 53, so DNS destination is this, and this is the timestamp. That's it. And this in the UDP containing a DNS data, right? The DNS whatever is containing is a query or that is a separate part. So that's the UDP header. So there is a huge difference in the working in the TCP and UDP. And this is, I think you guys already learned in your routing part that TCP is a bit less like slower protocol, and comparing to UDP, UDP is faster because UDP do not send any SYN packet or any acknowledgements during the communication, but UDP sends only data. Okay, so that's the UDP. Now let's come to the next layer. So we seen at layer 4. Now whenever you sending data exiting at layer 3, right? So all upper layers we call it upper layers. I'm calling it whatever you call layer 7, layer 6, layer 5. Okay, these are single layer. They always work in a single way. Now this send data to whom? To transport layer. So here we have TCP or UDP. So yesterday we also discussed that your application itself decide like which protocol they're gonna use at layer 4. Okay, at layer 4, your layer 4 do not decide that they're going to contain the data in TCP UDP. Application itself decide. So if it's a HTTPS or any telnet, so that means they're going to pack into which protocol? TCP. If any DNS data, tell me some more name of UDP. Tell me if you remember DNS and what is the other protocol work on? UDP. What is the other protocol you usually think that work on? UDP protocol at layer 4. DHCP. And whatever other protocols, okay, they're going to pack in UDP. Now see again, this data supposed to be go at the layer 3. So at layer 3 we have two protocols actually. Now there is a confusing part. You always understand there's a routing and outward protocol, so there's a different part. We have only two protocol here. Either it's going to be packed into IPv4 or IPv6.
So Aditya, sorry to interrupt you. So you mean
Yeah.
to say these TCP and UDP parameters are already defined in the application?
Application layer, yeah.
Okay, okay. So
So
whoever
when
is making that application, it already defined or right? It's already configured there.
yeah,
You
it's,
may say.
it's already part of that in their programming. Actually, your machine already knows that whenever we initiating the
Mhm.
HTTP traffic, we're going to pack
Mhm.
HTTP header or HTTP data into TCP, and whenever initiating
Mhm.
the DNS traffic, this is going to be packed into UDP.
UDP.
Yeah.
Okay.
So means application itself making the choice, okay, or you call it
Mm-hmm.
machine making the choice. Your layer 4 do not deciding whether I going to contain that app data or that app data. It's already predefined.
Okay.
Got it?
Yep.
Same way, whenever you, so mostly we seen here the important part is your what? My basically port number, right? That's why we very whenever we think about the layer 4, we always think about the ports, right? We've seen that mostly
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
traffic here it moving using the ports number. Either it's a standard port or non-standard, right? If it's a standard port, they can
Mm-hmm.
identify the application on the basis that it's non-standard. They have to identify the application on the basis of their behavior. Okay. Now same way, TCP either going to use IPv4 or IPv6. We have two protocols at layer 3.
So on,
Both are,
sorry, on behavior, what do you mean by behavior? Uh,
see,
if the ports are not,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Okay, so that's a huge topic. Let me clarify little bit here. So nowadays,
Oh.
what's happening? If you remember, there is a standard port range, right? 021025.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We call it what? Standard port or reserve ports? What we call it? Okay, well-known ports. Okay,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but we know that the so it's a 24. So 102.5.2.6.5.5.3.5 is a unknown ports. Once open ports, we call it unknown open ports. Okay, but see earlier we have a few. There is a organization called ANA, right, which decide these ports and IANA. If you remember CCNA classes, there is
Mm-hmm.
a organization called IANA, ANA, which decide the
Mm-hmm.
your public IPs and ports. So earlier we have a very few applications. That's why we thought they thought that okay, this is the like well range, all the application will work
Mm-hmm.
on that, but later on day by day internet is moving on and increasing. So this pool is already exhausted like IPv4. This pool also exhausted. So what they did actually now after around 6 or 8, they created one more pool called 10,000 to 40,000, I believe, if I'm not wrong. Number
Mm-hmm.
could be vary. And these also they now considering as a well known ports. Okay.
Okay.
So whenever you defining a new application, so they always give the ports in in these ports. It's a
Mm-hmm.
listed application. It's if a random application, anybody create any right application, they can work on any port. If you're checking,
Mm-hmm.
let's suppose Facebook base work on which port? 443, right?
Four, four,
40 or
three.
443
Yeah.
and 4080.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
SSL also working. Your SSL also work on 443, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now it's difficult for your machine, sorry, your firewall to identify directly on the basis of the port, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if I can say okay, 443, that means HTTPS thread. No, for there are multiple application which are running on the port 443 and 80. I cannot
Right.
justify directly on the ports number nowadays. Earlier I can, but nowadays 443 is running multiple application. In every application running using 443 or 80.
Mm-hmm.
So to make it more clear, the what firewall doing right now, they're verifying their signatures actually. We will discuss it that part.
Mm-hmm.
On that signatures, they are deciding whether it's a SSL application or some other application, because we have predefined signatures in a database. Okay, so even sometimes what's happen, I told you, you've seen unknown in the application.
Mm-hmm.
There's a word called unknown. Okay, earlier in yesterday class told you one, you've seen incomplete, right? Incomplete, that means
Yes.
right, three-way check is not performed yet and application data not executed. That's why firewall do not identify. There's a one more. If you've seen when we do T-shoots, I'll show you unknown. There's a one more status in the application called unknown. What do you mean by unknown actually? Some newly configured application which is not part of your database. Okay, or Palo Alto
Uh,
cannot identify.
okay. Okay.
So that time Palo Alto tag always what? Unknown.
Unknown.
That means as of now your Palo Alto database do not verifying using old signatures that they can identify the application behavior. So that tag it as a unknown. might be this week or whenever you update your content URL filtering content, so that can be sometimes attached to some application, because mostly we do actually we update the signatures and in a once a week, either a Saturday or Sunday, or it's totally your company choice. So once the database has been updated, might be in the next database the unknown application convert into some ABC application. Okay, but this is the logic actually. Whenever you follow to do not identify the application but still is sending the data, it will check the your uh, you know your own storage data at your local device. Okay, and it's, if do not verify the signatures, it's put as a application as a unknown. Okay,
Okay.
got it? Anything else?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so see, now your TCP or UDP going to packet the layer 3 in two protocols. I'm clearly saying it's a routed protocol, because if you say, okay, you said there is only two protocols. What about the EIGRP, OSPF, EIGRP? These are the routing protocol, not the routed protocol.
Yeah.
So I'm saying at layer 3 there is a two protocols, IPv4, IPv6. So that which terminology you're running, whatever IPs you running at your machine level, that will decide that what happened with my markers. So whatever IP terminology you running at your machine level, either is running IPv6 at your machine level or device level, they're going to use which protocol? IPv6. If you're running at your machine level IPv4, they're going to use IPv4. Now we're going to discuss about IPv4 protocol. So earlier we told you mainly it's require only two details, right? It's a layer 3. So what is required actually? Source
Source
IP
IP. Yes.
and,
No.
and destination IP. Now I'll ask you one simple question, you guys. Does your machine knows that it's a private IP or public IP? Why we say okay, these are the reserved IP? We cannot route or something blah blah things. Does your machine knows the difference between? Hmm? Hello, did you get my question?
Yeah, I got your question. Um, how would machine know that this is the private IP?
Uh, Machine can not understand the private IP and public IP, but yes, L3 device can know what we have to route, and L3 device can uh,
So see,
say
any
yes.
networking device can identify whether it's a private IP or public IP. Why we have a, that we always give a private IP in their network. We do not give the you know we always give a net a public IP, so you guys know why we cannot route the private IP into public IP. Why? What happen if we route it? And does your devices identify that is a only IP or is a public or private IP? Any kind of concept.
I think it's a IP segment which we have in IEEE segmentation, like class C, class B, class C, and it's like something reserved IP.
So that means your device can identify. This router can identify, right?
Yes,
It's a
only
private or
router.
public.
Yes, not a system.
Okay. So let me clarify. Your any device do not know whether it's a public IP or private IP. They know it's IP. That's it. There is a
Okay.
no field in your IP header. So if you usually seen, okay, so what's happened if you exiting? Sometimes we found it in a T-shoots. Some engineers working they do not net it. Sometimes they forgot the netting. So if you check the logs, you check okay, traffic is allowed and the session and region will be aged out. But if you check the logs, if you magnify the logs, you see okay, I sent byte 8 or 10 whatever and received byte is 0. And you said okay, the source IP is not netted. That means what's happening? Let's assume it one example. Then you it will make you more clarified. See, a simple topology like you have a any layer 2 switch here. This is connected to some firewall. The normal company topology. Here we have a edge router. ISP router we call it. This is connected somewhere in the ISP network, and this is somewhere in some public IPs like abc.com. Okay, and the layer 2 you have connected some your LAN device, something like that. And this LAN segment have a okay 10 dot something 10.0.0.0/8, and this link has a some public IP 100.0.0.0/30. Dot 1 is here, and dot 2 is here. My writing skills is very poor, so you have to kind with me on this skill actually. Okay, so here you can assume any IP. This is 10 dot. Okay, 10.1.1.1. So this is your next hop, right? Usually we have this is the next hop 10 dot. So if you're accessing abc.com, forget about the TCP header. Let's put a simple. The source IP would be what from here. What happened? Source IP would be 10.1.1, right?
Mm.
And what is the destination IP? Some public IP. Let's assume the public IP of this abc.com 3.3.3.3. So here, so this package route layer to do the whatever according to VLAN and whatever tagging or trunk whatever created is sent to the firewall. Now firewall, what is a firewall? Just make it as a consider a L3 device. So what it will do? It will check the routing table, right?
Yeah.
And it check that do you have the route for the destination. Let's assume here you have the route 000/0, and the next hop would be 100.2, right?
Mm.
So now same packet is exiting here and traffic reached here, right? Still you have see the packet what 10.1.1.2 the source, destination is what 3.3.3, right? It is exited to the
Mm.
ISP ILC. How routing traffic reached to the where?
इसमें पानी भर दो.
At abc.com, right? I'm assuming now abc.com wants to give the reply. Now let's assume, does your abc.com knows where is the 10.1.1.2?
No.
The answer would be what? No.
No.
So traffic drop here. Okay. So that your device does not know whether it's a public IP or private IP. They only can identify the class. That's it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They can verify the different thing, the subnet mask, the routing part, but the only thing they can only check whether this IP has a route. Let's assume if you created one route here towards forcefully for this 10.10.2, or is have a default route. I'm assuming with this abc.com a default route and sending back to the ISP router, this router. Now this router obviously don't know where is 10.1.2. If it knows,
Right.
it can send any internal. Is if let's assume this 10 also running in internal environment to the ISP. They're doing netting here, they're doing the netting here and here, but in internal there. So this packet move like into the ISP. Your reply never comes back. And if you do the same practical, let's assume you do the routing here. If you do simple practical, you want to identify, take a two routers, one firewall and everything, and do the proper routing and use the private network here. Even the communication will work easily, right? That
Yeah.
means your devices do not care about whether it's a private IP or public IP. They only care about do I have a routing? Do I have a path to exit the packet or not? Do I know the exit interface? If they know, they can exit it. That's it. Same way your firewall. If we always have a 0/0 route on firewall, and that next hop will be our internet. If you directly can connect with internet or firewall, so the next hop would be ISP router, and mostly we have a router before that ISP router at our end. So the next hop would be ISP router. So that means routing is mostly always there. And if you do not do the netting, it will exit the packet, but you never see the reply. So your same thing we can identify using our So if you check, see the first field is
So
telling you
it means only routing to be add, and all the public and private communication will be happen, right?
yeah, but we can't do the routing because you can see every company using the only three subnets. Either it's a 10 or it's a 172 or 192.
Yes, right.
Because ISP receiving the ISP have a own network, right?
Right.
If you work, I somehow work with the ISP, so I know the how they configure actually. They also have a same LAN network inside there.
Yes, it
Okay,
could be.
yeah. As the edge router, they usually run a BGP or something like that. But behind the internal BGP, it is running sometime OSPF or EIGRP, whatever their choices. And these protocols run on mostly in the because ISP also have a own network.
Mm-hmm.
ISP itself a LAN network actually. If you counter properly, ISP itself a LAN network. They do not have multiple public IP. They cannot, at every hop they cannot have a public IP. They only have a enter at wherever they enter, they have public IP, and wherever they exit, they have public IP. That's it.
Yes, right.
Like inside there, if they are running own 10 hosts, like I have, let's assume I have one in Gurgaon, my router. I need to reach the Bangalore. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and now is Bangalore connected to Chennai. Chennai, let's suppose our exiting point. In India, we have mostly two exit point. So Chennai or Mumbai, right?
Right.
So here we have the some. So what you take any ISP, they have a like 10 hosts. So what doing? So this is their first public IP ISP router, and this is my router. So in between they are in public IP. Okay, so they're communicating public IP there. Now they back to netting into something in the internal IP. The entire network is running into some private IP. This internal network. Now whenever they exit their own network or entering to other ISP, they're going to net this again. That's how they configured. So that means if something enter into here, some private IP is going to mess for them because they are running a LAN network. So either they are going to use this 190 series, 172 series, or 10 series.
10 series.
Same way they have 1,000 connection with different customers.
Mm-hmm.
Their customer also running these networks, same network, right?
Right.
So somehow, if somebody is not doing netting, so it's going to mess for them. So they don't want to enter any, they don't want to inject any route for these routings for the clients. Okay, that's why we restrict. This is the exact reason that we restrict that do not send the data using the private IP or a route for the private IP. You have to net. So at least reply packet can, because they know they assign you give a public IP. They knows, okay, this public IP given to A customer, so I have to point it back a route to the A customer. That's it. Got it?
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So what we're discussing? Okay. So at first header, if you check, this is telling you the version. Version means it's going to be either V4 or V6.
P6.
Now, so this is a very big thing. We will discuss this part later on when we discuss QS. This is as of now I'm telling you, this is purely a QS part. Whether you're going to fragment or not. So this is a whole. It will take 1 or 2 days to discuss these three fields actually. But as of now, tell QS work on layer 3. Do you know that thing? QS work on layer 3.
Yeah. But it worked on layer 2 as well, right? Because the traffic is getting ingress
No,
in
no,
the
no. I'll
LAN
tell you.
interface.
QS is work. No. What do you mean by QS? You setting the these bits flags, not about the PBR. Do not consider that the PBR is separate thing. QS is separate thing. PBR is separate thing. Policy based routing is a different thing. QS is a different thing. QS means you are applying, okay, this match bandwidth I need to give the YouTube, or this is my preference. We'll discuss it, but these flags will work on the QS. You can prioritize your data on basis of whatever you need it. we have 6 fields, okay, in the QS, so we'll discuss it whenever we discuss, but this is considered as a, as of now, this is used for the fragmentation. Okay, and see, and this is the one more field called TTL. So TTL is, you already, you know, right? You guys already know that. What about the TTL, right? TTL means how much hope this packet can travel, right? Because layer 3 do not, we do not have mechanism at layer 3 loop, right? We cannot identify the loop, or we cannot know the how much hope it can travel. So I need to verify, okay, after that much hope this packet should be destroyed. If you do not destroy it, it will, you know, move in the path on and on, like n times. If you do not define this field here in this, and if you are routing and you don't know the server, so it will move like a loop. So I don't want. So this is a totally different it's not exact time 120. It's totally depend on your protocol, which protocol. Like a layer 4 protocol, it's going to be a 128 or something else. Is you containing some different, it varies protocol to protocol. The TTL value varies according to protocol. If I containing the ping data, trace route data, then it is something different. If I contain the TCP, then it's something different. But TTL, so the important thing in the IP header, we contain the TTL value. So at layer 3 device can decide, okay, how many hope has been I traveled and how much is remained. So maximum TCP can travel 128 hops maximum. Okay. Next is, okay, now here the protocol field. In the protocol, what you define, which protocol data you're carrying. So always is going to be two protocols. Either it's going to be TCP or UDP, right? At layer 4, you have a two protocol. Either it's a TCP or UDP. So this is a very important field. From the protocol number, your IP header defined, okay, which protocol data I'm carrying. So whichever data, you know, I'm going to pack into the IP header, they're going to use the protocol number. So if you remember in a CCNA class, your OSPF also has some protocol number, EIGRP also has some protocol number, ping also has some
Yes.
protocol number. Why? Because your IP header identify the data, which data I'm carrying in myself. At least I have to know, right? I'm containing the data. So how do I identify? I'm going to identify my data using a protocol number. So for the TCP, the protocol number is what, 6, and I think UDP is 17, I believe, if I'm not wrong. The UDP, what was the UDP? This one or yeah, open it. Okay, so if you check, UDP also 128 and 17, right? So that's why we need the protocol number. So I cleared you one more thing. Why we need the protocol number? Because your IP header have that field, and whenever IP header going to pack anything inside itself, it has to know the data, which kind of data I'm carrying, and how that identify using the protocol number.
Okay.
So anything you're going to pack into the IP layer 3, they must have a what?
Protocol number.
So if in CCNA classes or CCNP classes, they give you some misinformation that only layer 3 things have a protocol number, layer 4 things have what? A port number. But this is not exact answer. Exact answer is doesn't matter. It's a layer 4, layer 3, whatever layer. Anything going to pack into the layer 3 at IP header, they're going to have they're supposed to have a what?
Protocol number. Yeah.
Okay, still you can see my screen. There is some internet issue at my side. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, yes.
Okay. So, so we discussed which number?
Protocol number. So
Yeah.
IP header
So,
should have the protocol number to identify what kind of, yeah.
then we have source IP and destination IP. Okay. The protocol number. Then we have that's. So here, if you check, if you click here, it's they not mention anything, right? It's a classless or whatever is a public or private. That's it. It's just a IP, source and destination IP. That's it.
Mhm.
So I here I'm not discussing these two important fields. One is the identification field, another is the fragment offset. We will discuss that part into what? Into QS. Okay, whenever I discuss the QS, just remind me what is the flags, what is the DSP bits, these three fields. Because if I discuss, it will take 2 or 3 days. It's a huge big header. For the basic
Okay.
information, tell you this is something used for the identify the packet number. Okay, and this field actually tell you there is two things. One is the your header length and the total length. If you check here, one important thing, this is my header length. What do you mean by header length? And this is my total length. If you check two things, there is header length and total length. Total length including the payload. My total length is including payload plus IP header, that is total length. And whatever length of my IP header is always considered as a header length. So my header length is 20 bytes and total length is what? 52 bytes. So here is a very important thing is if you heard about the padding word in the IP header, what do you mean by the padding actually? Your IP header always, header length always with a multiple of 16 bytes. Okay, it always a multiple of 16 bytes. What do you mean by that? Whatever length you have, it's supposed to be divided by the 16. So whenever this requirement fails, it adds some extra bits. We call them padding. If let me check here, do I have that field or not? Padding, not here. We not done it in padding. Not here. So what I'm saying actually, whenever your machine exiting the data from source to destination, your IP header length should be multiple of 16 byte. That means let's assume your 16 bit or byte something multiple of 16 bytes. So sometimes not very sure that it always have a same length. So whenever it think that okay the length is above or not the multiple of 16 byte, it will add some extra bytes. We call them what? Padding. Okay, why IP header do the padding? To make the header multiple of 16 byte. Okay, now one more thing. So and it's always put the identification using the multiplication of 16 bit. See, if let's suppose the first packet is exiting with the identification number something like and you can assume 0011 something. Okay, so it always divide with the 16 bit. So next identification number would be plus of your IP header length. It is not like a 1 or 2 or 3 something. First would be 16, then whatever IP ladder length you have or IP ladder length always with a multiple of 16 byte, that going to add in your identification number and that would be the second identification number. I think this is a very deep, this is not, but I'm telling you how this IP header identify, okay, this is the first sequence or second sequence and third packet. Okay, let's assume the application data executing, you executed the 3 packets. Okay, the first and the second and third. In the first, whenever you're executing first, there is a latency, so this is bit delay. So your second packet will receive first here. Now it's received a second, first and third. So do you think it can reassemble the data? This is the sequence it's received. Then how your destination knows, okay, this is my first packet, this is my second packet, this is my third packet, and I have to reassemble the data using this sequence 1, 2, 3. How? Using the identification number, because it knows the how it knows. See, latest it has, lower it has have a old one. So okay, last in the database, let's suppose I have received 16 number. Okay, and again I received what, 32, then 64, right? Then what is the next? 128, right? So whenever first I received the 32, it knows, okay, this is not a first sequence number, it's a what, I don't know, it's a second or third, whatever it is, but it's not a first one. So it will wait for some time. Whenever all packet received, it will check the sequence number and it will arrange it in the lower to higher sequence number. So lower will be the oldest, the higher will be the what, newest. Yeah, that's how I'll rearrange and create packet one packet. So even it's a latency in the packet, that's how your destination can identify your packets at layer 3. That's why we need this field here, identification field. Okay. So this is, and here we have some flags. It's called fragment, do not fragment, Asian bits. Okay, we'll discuss this part in the Q&A. So this is layer 3. So mostly at layer 3 you have important field is what? Source IP and destination IP, version, identification number, and TTL and protocol number. And always remember, whenever you do not fulfill these information correctly, it do not exit the data. It do not give this data to next hop, next layer. So the basic need is what? We always have a source and destination net. So whenever you do go for the T-shoot, we always check the NS lookup first. Why? Because we know that we need IP to exit the packet. If the URL is not resolving to some IP address, your machine do not exit the packet at all. Because they supposed to fulfill every requirement of this header. If anything is missing, they do not exit. So the only requirement they need is what? Source and destination, because other requirements they fulfill automatically. They know version very well. They know they can put the identification number and they can put the TTL number automatically. See, the TTL is here 120. So that means this is not a first hop, this is something second or third hop, and they knows very well the protocol number. So the only thing you have to provide to the IPv4 header or Ethernet, IP header is source and destination IP. That's it. Remaining they will take care.
But we would be having there are cases and we have more than 128 hops, right?
Yeah, that's I told you, right? This values totally depend on this protocol number. This is totally depend on this protocol number. If here you have something OSPF, then the value is different. If you have here a ping, there's a totally different value. If you have UDP, it's the same. And one more thing is, if the OS is different, then the value is different.
Okay.
So TTL will be different. It's not like it's a device based actually. Same packet if you're exiting from the router, then you have different TTL value. If you observe you're running a ping or
Yeah, it's
running a TCP
255.
packet from a router, you have different TTL value if running. Yeah.
So it's predefined
So
for
this
all the
is, it
protocols.
can vary. I
Yeah.
told you, right?
But
Yeah, it's
it's
predefined and it's
okay.
OS dependent also.
Okay.
So it can vary. So you don't need to worry about it so much. The only field is why I need it, because I don't want to create a loop.
Right,
Okay, in
right.
my network. If I don't know the destination, that means somewhere this packet supposed to be dropped, right?
Hmm.
It's not like a n hopes. Like first hop saying okay, I have 00 route, just send to the next hop. Next hop also saying okay, I have 00 route, send to next hop, again next hop, next hop, next hop. So moving inside the network.
Hmm. Hmm.
So at least I want,
Right.
okay, 120 hops are perfectly fine. At least at the 120th hop, that 20th hop, do not send this data to next hop.
Hmm.
So that's why we need the TTL.
Like in BGP, we have TTL equals to 1, right? But there are
Yeah,
things to manipulate the hops also, like eBGP multi-hop. So,
yeah, yeah.
so there are features for all the protocols. Okay.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's what I told you, right? It's a totally depend on your protocol actually. It's not a standard value.
Hmm. Okay.